I'm standing at the bar and this gentleman comes over to me and he tells me that he is the senior photographer for Hustler magazine. Within about a short period of time, I was offered a role in an adult movie. I was in a foster home for several years, from the time I was 3 until the time I was 7 years old. I have memories of being abused by my foster mother physically, and I didn't get to see my mother very often, but when I did not understand why I wasn't allowed to be back with my mother. Driving back from the vacation that we were on for the holidays, we were in an accident on the Interstate Highway 14. My mom was hit in the rear end by a cement truck, and I was behind her in the vehicle. The cement truck came apart, the mixer came off the back, and it jackknifed and it hit the roof of the car, took the roof right off of the car and crushed the vehicle and rolled over it. The last thing I remember of my mother was that with one arm, my mother reached back and grabbed me, and I went right through the passenger window. And I, for years, did not remember this, but I remembered the trauma. And I saw that my mom's neck had been broken and my mother was almost In any event, my mother did not survive the accident, and my father, who she was estranged from, came up with my stepmother and picked me up from the hospital, and then they came to live in my mother's house. They didn't think I was going to survive the accident. I was literally in a coma for a couple of days. And then when I did wake up, there was my father telling me they didn't want to tell me that my mother had not survived the accident. They were afraid it was going to be too much. And I knew immediately that my mother had passed away. And I remember looking at my father and he saying, "Where's my mom? Where's my mother?" And when he started to talk, I said, "She's dead. I know you're lying to me." When my father brought me home from the hospital that day, my older brother Charlie came out to the car and he picked me up. And he said to me, "I've got you, sis. It's gonna be okay." I was like 8 to 10 years behind my brothers. So I was like the baby of the family. And being that I was the only girl, my brothers were incredibly protective and hovering of me. You know, I wanted to experience the world and I was always being held down. So as I started to get older, I became a model in my youth at a very young age. I went into modeling and I did modeling and bikini modeling. When I got to be of age, when I became an adult, the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to go out, get away from my family who had, I felt, been holding me down. And I wanted to get out there and experience the world. I come up to Los Angeles and there was a place in LA that was called the Rainbow Bar and Grill. And it is a very famous place on Sunset Boulevard even today. So here we are at the Rainbow and I'm standing at the bar and this gentleman comes over to me and he tells me that he is the senior photographer for Hustler magazine. And so I went over to the table and, you know, they offered me a drink and I was hanging out with them and this woman comes in and it turned out to be Larry Flint's wife. They invited me to come in and to test for their magazine. I shot for one of the magazines and within the course of just a few months, I wound up shooting for magazines every day. Once I had agreed to do any kind of adult work in the magazine market, I started shooting covers and centerfolds. Literally every week I was working on a project or I was on a location being shot. It gave me this sense of stardom and belonging and the feeling that I had finally made it, and I had made it on my own. This was something that I had gone out and created on my own without being held down by my family, and also because I knew that they wouldn't approve. Within about a short period of time, I was offered a role in an adult movie. I started shooting movies regularly, and I shot my first movie in 1983. And I had already been working as a model in the mainstream market. Between 1983 and 1986, I made probably about 100 movies, and my career took off, and I became very, very well known and pursued within the adult entertainment industry and market. What I didn't realize what was happening for me, which had absolutely nothing to do with my adult career or any of the decisions that I was really making about my life, was that I, like my father, and probably I believe from my father was handed down to me, I have alcohol. I was working so hard, but when I was off work, I would go out and party with my friends, not realizing that I had a very serious problem. In the beginning, another actress and I were supposed to go on this job together, and she was also a very famous colleague of mine in the adult industry. Her name was Lynn. Ginger, at the last minute, called me up and said, I am going to decline going on the road and dancing. I'm going to pursue my mainstream acting at this time. And I said, nobody's ever going to give an Oscar or an Academy Award to a girl who basically sucks for a living. And I meant it. I didn't think at that point we could become something more than stars. And then I went on the road. And the first week I was on the road dancing, there was 1,000 people in the audience waiting to see me live on stage. And I never really got the level of the fame that I really had until I started to perform in live shows on the road. And it was like being a rock star. People would pack into these gentlemen's clubs, and they would be like 1,000 feet deep. They'd be 500 feet deep. And this was for our day shows. I went back into the entertainment industry. For a time, I got out and I've worked in real estate, and I've owned businesses, and I've done all of this other stuff. But all of the time, my heart has always been in the entertainment industry. So I was able to honor that and go back into the entertainment industry with a new pair of glasses. And lo and behold, it was my turn to be in the barrel. So it has gone back and forth and back and forth. And now I'm in a place here today where we're just trying to pick up the pieces and resurrect what will happen moving forward, for all of us. I have a lot of things in life to be grateful for today, and I try to focus on that. I think the greatest lesson that I have learned in life is to look for the signs and the guides. One of the greatest gifts that I received from my time in recovery was that it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a rock star or a porn star or a housewife. You can suffer from alcohol and addiction. It doesn't have to change who you are. You can learn to live a sober life in the house that you own. Do the work, heal, let it go, pick yourself up, do better next time. And when you can, use your experience, strength, and hope to go out and help others.